In this video, I'm going to talk about all the things I wish I knew before I started my foundation program and things that are not talked about enough, in my opinion. Hello, my name is Roberta Barreto. I'm an emergency doctor and dancer based in the UK. I completed my medical school training back in 2015 and I completed my foundation program in 2017. It is so important to prioritize your life outside of medicine. I repeat, it's so important to prioritize your life outside of medicine. If you already have prior commitments before starting your foundation program, it's definitely worth getting into contact with your rota manager. Now, sometimes you might not even know which job you're starting with, but as soon as you know, find out who the rota manager is and tell them the dates that you're unavailable. So these could be things like weddings or pre-planned holidays or any other important events that you can't miss out on. You can complete your training and still make all these events. So that brings me to my first point of having access to the rota. It's the on-call shifts, all the out-of-hours work that could be potentially a problem, but hopefully if you can get into contact with the rota manager before you start your job, hopefully they can plan your shifts around that. But sometimes they just can't accommodate for that with the staffing issues, in which case just have a look on the rota, see within those dates, are you on call? Are you working nights? Are you working any out-of-hour shifts? If you are, is there anyone else that you can swap with? So it's also really important to get to know your peers. It's a favor that we do for each other. You help others, they help you. As simple as that. To apply to work less than full-time. An important point of contact could be your educational supervisor, the postgraduate team, or you can find out more information on the website of your foundation school. The second way you can do that is to apply for a specialized foundation program or the foundation priority programs, but obviously you would only choose the less than full-time options. So we just talked about working less than full-time. What about working extra hours to supplement your salary? As an F1 doctor, you cannot pick up extra shifts in specialities that you have not done. Let's say your first job is gastroenterology and you're 2 weeks into the rotation, they have a rota gap and your rota manager asked, would you like to pick up a locum shift to work in gastroenterology or to work as a medical F1 on call? Absolutely, because that's the job that you're on already. You'll just pick up extra shifts. So yes, of course you can. If it's a surgical F1 shift, because you haven't actually done your surgical rotation, you would not be allowed to do that. Now let's talk about your salary and pay slips. Your basic salary as an F1 doctor will be roughly $32,000 before tax. A normal working week would be 40 hours, Monday to Friday, between 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Any work you do outside of that window would be classified as out of hours and you will be paid extra for it. Here is the list of job bandings that you can find on the BMA website. If your job is unbanded, you're only working in hours, and that means you may be supernumerary on the rota. So that means you just don't count as a number on the rota, which is not a bad thing because you can then prioritize your learning and not service provision. If your job is banded and you feel like you're working way too many hours and it's not matching up with how much you're being paid, make sure you check out this BMA calculator, check whether your pay is reflecting the working hours you've put in. Understanding your pay slips. The first time I actually looked at it, I thought, I can't read any of it, or why would I bother? But it is so important because people make mistakes and you want to make sure you're getting the correct payment. So to check whether you're getting paid correctly, you need to understand what personal allowance is and you need to understand what your tax code is. Your personal allowance is the amount of income that you can get before you have to pay tax. And for most of us, that would be $12,570. And that also means a portion of your first paycheck is tax-free. Now, if you look at your pay slips, you should be able to see your tax code. Most of us would be on CUMU 12570L. The first part of the tax code, CUMU, means that we're receiving a portion of the payment that is tax-free. The second part, 12570, what does that resemble? Yeah, that's our personal allowance. So that is saying we're benefiting from our personal allowance. Now, obviously, if you have any other sources of income, your tax code might be different. So this is only the tax code the majority of us are on. Annual leave, study leave, and all kinds of days off. So as an F1, you're actually entitled to a total of 5 weeks per year of annual leave, which is paid for, and in Wales you get an extra 3 days. However, they do encourage you to split up your annual leave as evenly as possible throughout your 3 rotations in the year rather than taking them all in one go. But obviously, if you have prior commitments and if you really need to do that, you can speak to your foundation school, speak to your rota manager to see whether they can accommodate that. Study leave. As an F1, you're entitled to a total of 15 days of study leave, and that would include study days that are organized by the foundation school and any extra courses that you may want to attend yourself. And you also get up to 5 taster days where you can try out a different specialty for 5 days, but that has to be included in the 15 days of study leave you get. TOY, or time off in lieu. So just a little quick tip. If you wanted to extend your days off or your holiday, you could do that and try and time it with your time off in lieu. So let's say rota manager asks you to work 2 days and those 2 days were bank holiday because it was Christmas, for example. Then you would get 2 days off in lieu in the future if it's the 2 bank holidays that you've worked. You can add that on to your annual leave. So you could get 5 days of annual leave, and then you will have the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and then you can add on another 2 days off in lieu in total, so you end up getting 9 days off. That is something that I definitely did a lot in foundation program. I think it's just a better use of your time off, and you can leave the country, you can go on holidays, and it's a much better use of your time. Study budget. Every trainee has a set study budget. It may differ from foundation school to foundation school, so make sure you're aware of how much study budget you have and how to apply to use that study budget. Know your limits and don't let anyone take advantage of you. When you start your F1 job, there will be times where your rota manager might ask you to work an extra shift, or they might ask you to work a last minute shift or alter your working hours. So there was one time when I was working a day shift, and at 3 p.m. my rota manager rang me and said, "Oh, could you possibly do the night shift? You can go home now, have a rest, and then come back in for 9 p.m. Now obviously, if you have the capacity to do that, great. And if that's something that you're keen to do, great. But at the time, I did not have the capacity to do that. I didn't think it would be safe for me to go home, to not be able to sleep, to work the whole night. That would not be safe for my patients. An important note is that the hospital isn't going to stop running just because you say no to that one shift. So just make sure you know your limits and don't put any of your patients at risk. Learning opportunities. Even though as an F1, sometimes you would probably feel like, oh, I'm just a jobs monkey, but don't forget that you're in training. Make sure you prioritize your learning and not just providing service. Looking back, I think I learned most of my clinical skills, most of my people skills, or non-clinical skills as an F1. Luckily, I was in a small hospital where there weren't too many higher trainees at the time. So I actually learned how to do an ascitic drain as an F1. I got to do some suturing in A&E and in theatre as well. I got to assist in different surgical procedures as well in theatre. So that was all really fun. While you're in the midst of working long hours, drowning in work, just making sure you have these fun moments where you're learning and seizing those learning opportunities. You're not just an F1. I think a lot of us have fallen into the trap of thinking, oh, we're just the F1, I don't know any better, you better ask my senior. Which is fair enough. Your seniors do have more experience and they might make better decisions clinically. However, do not disregard your own concern. If there is something that doesn't sit well with you, raise that concern, tell your seniors. I mean, what could be the worst thing? You're acting on your patient's behalf and making sure that they're safe. It's not an ego battle. Therefore, a lot of the times it's actually safer that someone raises their concern than to keep quiet just because my senior said so. Because your opinion, your concerns are also just as valid. Final note, just know that you are not alone in this journey. We've all been through it. You have other medical colleagues that are also going through it. But if you have any concerns, any significant problems, make sure you bring it up to your educational supervisor and your foundation school. They are there to help you. On a positive note, I hope you enjoy your foundation program and have lots of fun learning new things. In the coming weeks, I'll be making more videos about the foundation program, so stay tuned. If you found my video helpful, please like and subscribe, and comment down below for any questions you may have for me, and I'll try and answer them all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.